I came home from 3 weeks at my brother's place to find the workshop door padlocked. Not my padlock, a shiny new master lock that I definitely didn't buy and definitely didn't install. My brother Ray had just survived a triple bypass surgery in Phoenix, and I'd driven the 18 hours to help his wife manage while he recovered. I walked around to the side window of my workshop and looked inside. Empty. 32 years of collected tools, my late wife Dorothy's sewing machines, the woodworking bench my father built in 1961, all gone. My hands were shaking when I walked into the house through the back door. My son Kevin was sitting at the kitchen table eating cereal like it was any other Tuesday morning. He's 36 years old, still eating Lucky Charms like a teenager. "Hey, Dad. Didn't expect you back until Thursday." I set down my duffel bag. "Where are my tools, Kevin?" He didn't look up from his phone. "Brittany can explain. She's upstairs." I walked past him and climbed the stairs. The door to what used to be my workshop was open now. I stood in the doorway and felt something break inside my chest. The concrete floor had been covered with some kind of foam padding. The walls, which I'd spent 2 summers insulating and drywalling myself, were painted a soft yellow color. There was a white crib in the corner, a changing table, a rocking chair that I recognized as belonging to my mother-in-law, a woman who had died 15 years ago. My daughter-in-law, Brittany, appeared behind me, her hand on her belly. She was maybe 6 months along now. I'd known she was pregnant. What I hadn't known was that she'd decided to turn my workshop into a nursery while I was gone. "Surprise," she said, but her voice was careful. Testing. I turned to look at her. "Where is my wife's sewing machine?" "We rented a storage unit. Everything's safe. Walter, you have to understand. We need this space. The baby's coming in 12 weeks, and the spare bedroom is too small for a proper nursery. The spare bedroom is 12 by 14 feet. That's bigger than most nurseries. But it doesn't have the attached bathroom. I need to be able to wash up when I'm changing diapers without walking all the way down the hall." I looked at the room again. My father's workbench. The pegboard where I'd hung every tool in its proper place for 30 years. Dorothy's corner, where she used to sit and sew while I worked on projects. The two of us not talking much, but happy just to be near each other. All of it stripped away and replaced with yellow paint and baby furniture. "You didn't ask me," I said. "We tried to call. You never picked up. My brother just had heart surgery. I was at the hospital. Well, we had to make a decision. The furniture was on sale, and the painters had an opening. It just made sense to do it while you were gone so you wouldn't have to deal with the disruption." I walked back downstairs. Kevin was still at the table, but he'd put down his phone. He knew something was wrong. He'd always been able to read me, ever since he was a little boy. Dorothy used to say that Kevin had my stubbornness but her intuition. "Dad, I know you're upset. Do you? But Brittany's right. We need the space. You barely use that workshop anymore anyway. When's the last time you built anything?" 3 weeks ago. I was making a jewelry box for Ray's wife. "Okay, but that's not... Look, you can still do that kind of stuff. We got you a really nice storage unit, climate-controlled and everything. You can go there whenever you want." I sat down across from him, my son, the boy I'd carried on my shoulders at parades, the teenager I'd taught to drive in the parking lot of the Methodist church on Sunday afternoons, the man who'd cried in my arms at his mother's funeral and promised he would always take care of me the way I'd taken care of him. "Who rented the storage unit?" I asked. "What? Whose name is on the rental agreement?" Kevin glanced toward the stairs. "Mine? Why?" "So my belongings are in a storage unit that you control, not me." "Dad, it's not like that." I stood up, pulled out my phone, and called my attorney. Ben Whitfield had handled Dorothy's estate, my retirement paperwork, everything legal in my life for the past 20 years. He picked up on the second ring. "Ben, it's Walter. I need you to draw up an eviction notice." "Yes, for this address. My son and his wife. 30 days. "No, I'm not joking. Can you have it ready by tomorrow morning? I'll explain everything when I see you." Kevin's face went white. "Dad, you can't be serious. Watch me." Brittany came down the stairs. "What's going on? Kevin, why do you look like that?" "He's kicking us out." I put my phone away. "I'm evicting tenants who destroyed my property without permission. disposed of my wife's belongings without consent, and installed modifications to my home without authorization from the owner. That's me, by the way, the owner. Brittany's hand went to her belly. That protective gesture pregnant women do. Walter, I'm 6 months pregnant. You can't throw us out on the street. You have 30 days to find an apartment. That's plenty of time. You're both employed. You can afford rent somewhere. We can't afford anything in this market. That's why we moved in with you in the first place. I looked at my son. 4 years ago, you told me you needed 6 months to save up for a house down payment. 6 months turned into a year. A year turned into 2. Now it's been 4 years, and somehow you're less prepared to move out than when you moved in. Meanwhile, you've been paying me $300 a month in rent, which wouldn't cover the electric bill in most places. Where exactly has the rest of your money been going? Kevin didn't answer. I'll tell you where, I continued. Brittany's car. The Lexus she just had to have because her Camry wasn't nice enough. The vacation to Cabo last March. The 60-inch TV in my living room that, somehow, you both forgot to mention you were buying. The weekly dinners at restaurants I can't afford on my pension. 4 years of living off my grocery budget, my utilities, my property taxes, while you spent your money on whatever you wanted. Brittany was crying now. That's not fair. We've contributed. You bought groceries twice. I have the receipts. 2 shopping trips in 4 years, both for under $100. Everything else has been me. Kevin stood up. Dad, okay, we made some mistakes. But you're overreacting. We can work this out. Let's just sit down and talk about it like adults. Adults? You want to talk about being adults? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Adults ask permission before renovating someone else's home. Adults don't throw their father's belongings into a storage unit like they're trash. Adults don't lie to their parents about needing temporary help and then squat in their house for 4 years. I picked up my duffel bag. I'm going to a hotel. When I come back tomorrow, I expect the nursery furniture gone and my workshop restored. Every single item returned to where it was. If that happens, maybe we can talk about extending your move-out date. If it doesn't, the eviction papers get filed first thing in the morning. I drove to a Marriott near the highway. Sat in the parking lot for 10 minutes before I could make myself go inside. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink, the kind of sunset Dorothy always made me stop and watch with her. She'd been gone 7 years now. Lung cancer, never smoked a day in her life. The universe has a cruel sense of humor sometimes. In my hotel room, I sat on the edge of the bed and thought about what Ray had said to me last week when I'd told him about Kevin and Brittany living with me. They're still there? Walter, it's been 4 years. Those kids are using you. Kevin's my son. Kevin's a grown man with a pregnant wife and a good job. He doesn't need his daddy paying his bills. He wants his daddy to pay his bills. There's a difference. I defended Kevin then, made excuses. He'd had a rough time after Dorothy died. Brittany's family didn't have money. They were young, still figuring things out. But sitting in that hotel room, all I could see was my father's workbench, disassembled and shoved into a storage unit. Dorothy's sewing machine, the one she'd gotten as a wedding gift from her grandmother, packed in a cardboard box by strangers. My phone buzzed. Text from Kevin. Dad, Brittany's really upset. She's worried about the baby. Can we please talk about this? I typed back. The only thing I want to hear is that my workshop is being restored. Let me know when that's done. Then I turned off my phone and went to sleep. The next morning, I met Ben Whitfield at his office downtown. He'd been my lawyer for 2 decades, handled my retirement from the fire department, helped me set up Dorothy's memorial fund. He knew our family. Walk me through it, he said, pouring us both coffee. I told him everything. The phone calls I'd ignored because I was sitting by Ray's hospital bed, the padlocked workshop, the yellow paint and baby furniture, Kevin's inability to look me in the eye. Ben took notes, nodding occasionally. When I finished, he set down his pen. Walter, you're within your rights. It's your home, your property. They made modifications without your consent and disposed of your belongings without authorization. Legally, they're in the wrong. So you can draw up the eviction? I can have it ready in an hour. But I want to ask you something first. He leaned back in his chair. Are you sure this is what you want? Kevin's your only child. This isn't something you come back from easily. I thought about it. Really thought about it. The way Dorothy would have wanted me to. Ben, when Dorothy was dying, Kevin visited maybe once a month. He said he couldn't handle seeing her like that. Brittany never came at all. I spent 8 months as her primary caregiver. Changed her sheets, helped her to the bathroom, held her hand when she was scared. I did that alone because my son couldn't be bothered. Ben was quiet. After she passed, Kevin told me he felt terrible. Said he'd make it up to me. 6 months later, he and Brittany needed a place to stay. I thought, okay, this is his chance. This is how he shows me he's grown up, changed. Instead, it's been 4 years of them taking and taking, and me pretending that's okay because I'm afraid of losing my only connection to Dorothy. I looked at Ben. I'm not afraid anymore. I'm just tired. He nodded slowly. I'll have the papers ready in an hour. When I got back to the house, Kevin's truck was in the driveway. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Kevin? In here, Dad. He was in the living room, sitting on the couch. Brittany was next to him, eyes red from crying. There was someone else there, too. A man I didn't recognize, maybe 65, with gray hair and a suit that looked expensive. Walter, this is my father, Brittany said. Richard. He flew in this morning. I looked at Richard. He stood up and extended his hand, but I didn't take it. Mr. Campbell, I'm not sure what you're doing in my house. I'm here to help mediate, Richard said smoothly. Brittany called me last night, very upset. I think we can work this out. There's nothing to work out. Your daughter and my son have 30 days to vacate my property. Richard smiled the way salesmen smile. Now, let's not be hasty. Brittany is carrying my grandchild. Surely we can find a compromise that works for everyone. The compromise is simple. My workshop gets restored. Every tool, every piece of equipment, my wife's sewing machine, all of it, back where it was. Then we can discuss a reasonable timeline for them to find their own place. That room is a nursery now, Richard said, his smile faltering. You can't expect them to undo all that work. I didn't expect them to do the work in the first place. Not in my house, not without my permission. Richard's eyes hardened. Walter, I'm trying to be diplomatic here, but if you push this, we'll push back. Kevin and Brittany have been living here for 4 years. They've made improvements to the property. They have rights. They have no rights. Their names aren't on the deed. They signed a rental agreement for $300 a month, which they've been paying sporadically at best. Legally, they're tenants who have violated the terms of their lease by making unauthorized modifications. Ben Whitfield will be happy to explain that to whatever lawyer you want to hire. Richard stepped closer to me. Is this really how you want to treat your son, your pregnant daughter-in-law? You'd throw them out on the street over a garage? It's not a garage. It's my workshop. It's where I spent 20 years of evenings with my wife. It's where her sewing machine sat for 3 decades. It's where my father's workbench has been since before Kevin was born. But you wouldn't understand that, would you? Because to you, it's just a room that your daughter decided she wanted. I turned to Kevin. I gave you a chance. I told you to restore my workshop and we could talk. Instead, you called in reinforcements. That tells me everything I need to know. Dad, please. Just listen to Richard. He has some ideas. I don't care about Richard's ideas. I care about my home, my belongings, and my boundaries, all 3 of which you violated. I pulled the eviction papers from my jacket pocket. You've been served. 30 days. If you're not out by then, the sheriff will escort you. Brittany started sobbing. Richard put his arm around her. Kevin just stared at me like he didn't recognize me. Maybe he didn't. The Walter who let people walk all over him, who made excuses for his son's selfishness, who pretended everything was fine because he was afraid of being alone. That Walter was gone. I went to my bedroom and locked the door. Sat on the edge of my bed and looked at the photo of Dorothy on my nightstand. She was smiling in that picture, standing in front of the Grand Canyon on our 30th anniversary trip. I should have done this years ago, I told her. You would have known how. You always knew when to be gentle and when to be firm. I've been too gentle for too long. My phone rang. It was my neighbor, Martha, who lived 3 houses down. 72 years old, known me since we moved into the neighborhood. Walter, I just saw Kevin and some older man loading boxes into an SUV. Is everything okay? Not really, Martha, but it will be. I need to tell you something. I probably should have told you months ago, but I wasn't sure if it was my place. She paused. Brittany's been telling people you have memory problems. Early onset dementia, she said. She told me that's why they moved in, to take care of you. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. When did she tell you this? Started about a year ago. She said you were forgetting things, getting confused. Said they were worried about you being alone. I didn't believe it, honestly. You've always seemed sharp as a tack to me. But she was very convincing. Who else did she tell? Most of the neighborhood, I think. She organized a whole group text about it. Told us to let her know if we saw you doing anything concerning. After I hung up, I sat there for a long time, thinking about all the strange looks I'd gotten from neighbors over the past year. The way people would ask me twice if I was okay. The time the mailman had called Kevin to come pick me up from the community center, even though I was just there playing cards like I did every Tuesday. She'd been laying groundwork, telling people I was mentally incompetent, probably planning to eventually get power of attorney, gain control of my finances, my property. I called Ben Whitfield again. Ben, I need you to add something to the eviction, and I need to talk to you about changing my will. 3 days later, the formal eviction was processed. Kevin and Brittany didn't fight it. Richard had apparently consulted a lawyer who told him they had no case. The modifications to my property, the disposal of my belongings, the false statements about my mental health. All of it documented, all of it working against them. I also filed a complaint with the local police about the defamation. The sergeant who took my statement, a guy named Roberts, who'd worked with me at the fire department 20 years ago, just shook his head. Walter, I'm sorry. This is rough. Your own son, he's not who I thought he was. Kids disappoint you sometimes. My oldest hasn't spoken to me in 2 years over something stupid I said at Thanksgiving. But this, he gestured at the complaint form. This is calculated. This is mean. I nodded. I know. That weekend, I drove to Phoenix to see Ray. He was out of the hospital now, recovering at home. His wife Carol made us lunch while Ray and I sat on his patio, looking at the desert. You did the right thing, Ray said. I know it doesn't feel like it, but you did. He's my son. He's a grown man who tried to steal your house out from under you. There's a difference between loving your kid and letting him destroy you. Dorothy would have handled it better. Dorothy would have kicked his ass to the curb years ago. You know that. She didn't take crap from anyone, not even Kevin. Remember when he wrecked the car at 17 and tried to blame it on ice on the road? In June, Dorothy grounded him for 3 months and made him pay for the repairs. I smiled despite myself. She was something. She was. And she'd want you to protect yourself. She didn't spend 42 years building a life with you just so some entitled kid could tear it apart. When I got back home, the house felt different, emptier, but also cleaner, somehow, lighter. Kevin and Brittany had moved out 2 days before the deadline. They'd taken everything that was theirs, and a few things that weren't. My grandmother's china set was missing. So was a silver picture frame that had been a wedding gift from Dorothy's parents. I documented everything, sent the list to Ben, added it to the file. The storage unit was my next project. I went there on a Monday morning with a rental truck. The unit was exactly as Kevin had described, climate-controlled and clean. But seeing all my things packed in boxes, labeled in Brittany's handwriting like I was deceased and they were settling my estate, made something twist in my gut. It took me 2 days to move everything back. 2 days of carrying boxes, reassembling my father's workbench, hanging tools on the pegboard. I found Dorothy's sewing machine in the back corner, still in its original case, thank God. Set it up in her corner, even though she'd never use it again. When I finished, I stood in the middle of my workshop and looked around, everything back where it belonged, the yellow paint still on the walls, a reminder of what had almost happened. I'd repaint it eventually. For now, it could stay. My phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Campbell? This is Detective Sarah Martinez, Phoenix PD. I'm calling about your brother Raymond Campbell. My heart stopped. Is he okay? He's fine, sir. But I need to ask you some questions about his finances. We've received a report that someone may be accessing his accounts without authorization. What kind of report? His bank flagged several unusual transactions over the past few weeks. Large transfers to an account registered to a Kevin Campbell. Is that a relative of yours? I sat down on my father's workbench. Kevin is my son. Ray is my brother. What kind of transfers? Totaling about $47,000 over 3 weeks. Mr. Campbell, your brother was in the hospital during most of that time. Whoever made these transfers had access to his banking credentials. I closed my eyes, thought about the 3 weeks I'd spent at Ray's house, helping Carol, running errands, never once considering that anyone would take advantage of the situation. Detective, I think I know what happened, and I'll cooperate fully with your investigation. After I hung up, I called Ray. He hadn't noticed the missing money yet because Carol had been handling the bills while he recovered. When I told him, the line went silent for a long time. Kevin did this? Your Kevin? My Kevin. I'm sorry, Ray. I don't know how he got access to your accounts. He helped Carol set up online banking last year. She's not good with computers. He must have kept the password. Ray's voice broke. Walter, that money was our emergency fund. Carol's got arthritis. We were saving for when she needs full-time care. I felt like I was going to be sick. I'll pay it back. Every penny. I don't care how long it takes. It's not your debt. He's my son. I raised him. Whatever he's become, I had a hand in it. The next month was a blur of police reports, bank investigations, and conversations with prosecutors. Kevin was arrested on a Tuesday afternoon, charged with wire fraud and elder financial abuse. Brittany was listed as an accessory. Richard hired expensive lawyers, but the evidence was overwhelming. Bank records, IP addresses, time-stamped transactions that correlated exactly with Kevin's known locations. The trial was 8 months later. I sat in the courtroom and watched my son in an orange jumpsuit, listened to the prosecutor describe how he'd systematically stolen from his uncle while pretending to help the family. When they asked me to testify, I told the truth. Every bit of it. The 4 years of living in my house, the workshop conversion, the lies about my mental health, the pattern of entitlement and manipulation that I'd ignored for too long. Kevin was convicted on all counts, sentenced to 3 years in state prison. Brittany got probation and community service. The judge cited her pregnancy as a mitigating factor, though by then the baby had been born. A little girl named Emma. I'd never met her. After the sentencing, Richard cornered me in the hallway outside the courtroom. Are you satisfied now? You've destroyed my daughter's life. My grandchild will grow up without a father because of you. Your daughter's husband destroyed his own life. I just stopped pretending it wasn't happening. Kevin made mistakes. Young people make mistakes. You could have helped him quietly, kept it in the family. Instead, you went to the police like he was a common criminal. He is a common criminal. He stole $47,000 from a man recovering from heart surgery. If that's not criminal, I don't know what is. Richard stepped closer, his face red. You'll regret this. One day, you'll be old and alone, and you'll wish you'd been more forgiving. Family is all that matters in the end. I looked at him steadily. Family is people who show up, who tell the truth, who respect each other. That's not what Kevin and Brittany were offering. And frankly, it's not what you're offering either. I walked past him and out into the sunshine. That Sunday, I drove to Ray's house. He was doing better now, almost fully recovered. Carol had made her famous pot roast, and we ate on the patio, watching the sunset paint the desert orange and pink. I can't believe he's really going to prison, Ray said. Dorothy's boy. Dorothy's boy died a long time ago. I just didn't want to see it. Carol reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You did the right thing, Walter. I know it hurts, but you did the right thing. After dinner, Ray walked me to my truck. You know, Carol and I are putting you in our will. Whatever's left when we go, it's yours. You don't have to do that. I know I don't have to. I want to. You're my brother. You've always been there for me. That's what family means. I drove home in the dark, thinking about family and what it really meant. For 40 years, I'd believed blood was everything, that you forgave your children no matter what, supported them no matter what, loved them no matter what, but love without boundaries isn't love. It's just slow destruction. I'd spent the last 4 years letting Kevin and Brittany destroy me piece by piece, and I'd called it being a good father. No more. The house was quiet when I got home. I walked through the rooms, touching things Dorothy and I had collected over 42 years of marriage. The lamp we'd bought on our honeymoon, the bookshelf I'd built for her birthday, the photo of us at Kevin's college graduation, all of us smiling, none of us knowing what was coming. I went to my workshop last, turned on the lights. Everything exactly where it belonged. My father's workbench, Dorothy's sewing machine, tools hanging on the pegboard in order of size, the way she'd taught me to organize them because she said a cluttered workspace led to a cluttered mind. I sat down at the workbench and pulled out the jewelry box I'd been making for Carol when all this started, still unfinished. I'd stopped working on it the day I got Ray's call about the surgery. I picked up a piece of sandpaper and got back to work. 6 months later, I got a letter. Prison return address. Kevin's handwriting. I sat on my porch with a cup of coffee and read it. Dad, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I wouldn't blame you if you threw this away without reading it. But I need to tell you some things. I started therapy in here. Real therapy, not the kind where you just talk about your feelings. We're working on why I am the way I am. Why I thought it was okay to take from people who loved me. Why I blamed everyone else for my problems instead of fixing them myself. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for anything. I just want you to know that I understand now, at least a little bit, how much I hurt you. How much I hurt Uncle Ray. How much I hurt everyone who tried to help me. Brittany and I are getting divorced. She's moving back to her parents' place with Emma. I told her it was the right thing to do. I can't be a husband or a father from in here, and she deserves a chance to build a real life. I think about Mom a lot, about how disappointed she'd be if she could see what I've become, about how much you did for her when she was sick, and how I couldn't even visit because I was too weak to face it. I'm working on being stronger. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but I'm trying. You don't have to write back. You don't have to do anything. I just wanted you to know. Kevin, I read the letter 3 times, folded it carefully, and put it in my pocket. Took a long walk around the neighborhood, waving to Martha and the other neighbors who no longer thought I had dementia. When I got home, I sat down at my desk and wrote a letter back. Kevin, I got your letter. Thank you for writing. I'm not going to pretend everything is okay. It's not. What you did hurt people who loved you, people who would have done anything for you. That can't be undone with an apology, or a therapy session, or even a prison sentence. But I'm glad you're working on yourself. That's more than I ever expected. I'm not ready to visit. I don't know when I'll be ready, or if I ever will be. But I'm not closing the door completely. I'm leaving it open a crack, which is more than I thought I'd be able to do when all this started. Your mother would want you to get better. She'd want you to become the man she raised, not the man you chose to be. I want that too. But wanting it isn't enough. You have to do the work. If you're really serious about changing, prove it. Not to me, to yourself. Become someone worth forgiving, and maybe forgiveness will follow. Dad, I mailed the letter the next morning. Life went on. I finished the jewelry box for Carol, delivered it in person, stayed for pot roast and conversation. I joined a woodworking club at the community center, taught a couple of younger guys how to use the lathe. Martha started coming over for coffee on Sunday mornings, and sometimes we'd play cards with her husband, Frank, and another couple from down the street. One evening, about a year after Kevin went to prison, I was sitting on my back porch watching the sunset when my phone buzzed. Text from Ray. Just got a money order in the mail. $500 from Kevin. Note says he's paying back what he stole, 1 month at a time. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back. Did you cash it? Not yet. Carol and I were talking about it. What do you think? I thought about Kevin in his orange jumpsuit, about the letter he'd written, about the jewelry box I was making, the sunset I was watching, the life I was finally living instead of just surviving. Cash it, I wrote back. He owes you that money. Let him pay it back. It's the right thing to do. You think he's really changing? I watched the sun sink below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink and purple, Dorothy's favorite colors. I think he's trying, I wrote, and that's more than I thought we'd ever get. After I put the phone down, I sat there in the gathering dusk and thought about all the things I'd learned in the past 2 years, about boundaries, about love, about the difference between enabling someone and actually helping them. Dorothy would have understood. She always knew when to be soft and when to be firm, how to love someone without letting them walk all over her. I'd spent too many years being soft, afraid that firmness meant cruelty, but it didn't. Sometimes firmness was the most loving thing you could do. Kevin might get better, he might not. Either way, I'd done what I could. Set the boundaries that should have been set years ago. Let the consequences fall where they needed to fall. Open the door a crack, just enough for him to walk through if he was willing to do the work. The rest was up to him. I finished my coffee, went inside, locked the door behind me, my door, my locks, my choice, and went to bed in my own room, in my own house, at peace with the man I'd finally become.